Yes, yes, yes. We did that sound name popping in the Paddock F1 green the cheese. It's an off week, but there's still F1 news going on. Lots of it. Here we go. We are caffeinated. We are medicated. Well, I guess we're going to start off with the big matzo ball out there in the world. The next, after Japan here, we will not be racing in April, pretty much. Because of the crisis, war, madness happening in the Middle East. So there'll be no races in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, you want to say conflict going on. You want to say a war, whatever going on. Obviously, it's a terrible thing. Obviously, something we don't wish to talk about on a program like this. But just like COVID was, 5-6 years ago, was when these things intersect with sports in such a way, you really have to talk about it. My wife came to me last week and was like, I'm pissed at you because I keep listening to your show, not because she's interested in F1, but out of respect for you and I. And she's like, now I'm getting F1 news on my feed. I'm like, that's because it's global news, dear. It is nothing to do with the fact that you have the crossover, right? You go out to dinner with someone and they mention some random something and all of a sudden you're getting advertising for that on your phone. That's not what's going on here. This is a true crossover. The race is being canceled. This is global news. As you mentioned last week, Cheese, in the news segment, which I said we would carry over with, this is CNN, ABC, NBC, BBC, global news as far as the race is being canceled. So I think the more interesting F1 thing before we get into, that is really the fact that we need to just say, our thoughts are with all those innocent folks who are just have to go through all of this and suffering because of it. Those who are either too impoverished to leave or stuck where they are for a myriad of reasons. So really, 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 our hearts goes out to them, which brings us into our next point, Cheese, and something you had mentioned as we were prepping for the show, that these F1 teams want cash for the inconvenience, which seems at the moment, as far as from a public relations standpoint, if that is being bandied about behind the scenes, you should probably, as The Rock said, know your role and shut your mouth. You want to talk about it behind the scenes, you do that. But in public, that should never have been mentioned. I don't know if that was a leak that came out or that was intentionally put out there. You want to talk about it behind the scenes or after the season, I get it. But talking about compensation now, to me, seems ridiculous. Cheese, I'd love to hear your take on it and all the news as far as updates on teams and money back for essentially a war going on that's canceling these races.
The teams are not losing prize money or whatever. It's an estimated 11.8 million per team. Teams want cash. It's expensive to run an F1 team, so it seems to look greedy. I completely agree with what you said. I'm sure it was a leak. I don't think it was put out there because definitely doesn't sound right to be saying we want straight cash for not being able to race the next couple of races here in April because there's bombs being dropped all over the place and drones hitting airports and all kinds of ridiculousness. So I don't think it was a public thing. I definitely think it was a leak that, some reporter got an earful of, that the teams were looking for compensation for not having these two events. But behind the scenes, yes, you could do it all you want. But once it's out, it's definitely not something you really should be wanted to hear.
What's a spicy meatball? Or maybe a spicy falafel ball in this case, throwing it out there. But it seems so petty to me that even if you are going to get compensated, you just wait till the end of the season. These are billion-dollar franchises that a couple $1,000,000 in potential prize money, which is probably going to go to the top 4 to 5 teams anyway, is probably not going to affect the smaller. And these are multi. You're talking about Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull. These are billion-dollar franchises. You're going to argue about $2 to $3, $5 million potentially coming your way. I get it from an operational perspective, and this is not your fault, but talk about it after the season, or like as quiet as you can possibly freaking be, you know. But it could be a rumor. It could just be.
It is a lot of money. It is apparently like 130 million split between 11 teams now. So it's like 11.8 million per team that they get for the event taking place, I guess. So everybody gets a piece of that pie equally. So it is a chunk of change, but it definitely is petty to be coming out at this time.
There's a time and
this
place.
Is definitely something. Yeah, this is definitely not the time or the place to be.
Wait till the summer break. You deal with it now. You wait till the summer break, and then you have a month off. You assess the situation in the world. You hope to God that it's not World War III hasn't been declared, and only then you discuss any kind of compensation for your teams. And listen, our hearts go out, of course, to all the families all over the world of service members, not just here in the United States, but in countries all around the world, and service members all around the world that are being deployed at the moment, and thinking of those families. And I'm sure many of them follow the sport of F1. It's just bad taste. Bad job, F1. I hope that this is true. I hope this is just some kind of made-up rumor, but it seems like it's pretty solid inside sources where this leak is coming from. But we'll see what happens. And once again, know your role and shut your mouth as we head into Japan. Speaking of Japan, cheese, I'm hearing rumors and whispers that Red Bull is going to be charging hard going into Japan, bringing some upgrades. We know that Max has dominated Japan before, that's for sure. He loves this track.
Mm-hmm.
A little preview of Japan and what we might expect from Red Bull as, speaking of Max Verstappen, had a disastrous weekend at the Nürburgring as well. So all kind of Red Bull and Max Verstappen news. What are your insights on anything Max Verstappen, if any?
Well, Red Bull definitely has to bring something because they are definitely off the pace compared to teams ahead of them. That's for sure. Definitely have a power plant issue as well, it seems. So Red Bull need to pull something out. Otherwise, Max Verstappen probably ain't going to be there either. So, because he's definitely not going to want to stay somewhere where the car is trash. So let's be dead honest there. So Red Bull got to come up with something quick. I mean, everybody's really got to come up with something to catch up to Mercedes right now. So that's the bottom line. I mean, everybody's chasing Merc at this point, and has a lot of work to do to get up there. And Red Bull was nowhere to be found, and really, to be honest, like in China, they were a second or so off the pace of Mercedes and quali. I mean, Max Verstappen couldn't get by your boy there, Ollie Bearman, until he had the energy recovery coolant failure, whatever is the reason that he had to retire, lap 45 or whatever in China. So, I mean, the Red Bull's just not there right now compared to everybody else. And they have some power plant issues going on. So they got a lot of work to do, and they better be bringing something.
Yeah, no,
I'm sure they're not going to be the only. I'm sure they're not going to be the only team bringing an upgrade to Japan either now. So
no, but of course Max Verstappen, especially after this weekend in Nuremberg and all the news coming out of that. If you haven't checked that out, you can check out the news and the DQs coming out of that, as that news is still rolling in. But Yeah, it'll be interesting, and if McLaren as well, they better be bringing upgrades. Red Bull better be bringing upgrades, and who the heck knows what's going to happen with Aston Martin as well. Speaking of Aston Martin, cheese, we already have news coming out of Audi, major news and major shifts coming
Yeah.
out already as we are 2 races in, and yet Audi is already making a major personnel change. What is going on there, cheese?
Jonathan Wheatley is out of as team principal, effective immediately. Said to be for personal reasons. Bernardo will be taking over the role as team principal, along with his, head role that he has with Audi right now. But it is also said to be, where the scuttlebutt out there is, that Wheatley will be joining Aston Martin as team principal, and Adrian Newey will be stepping down as team principal and just concentrating on designing the car.
That's a lot.
So very interesting. And apparently Lance Stroll has definitely, opened up the checkbook to get Jonathan Wheatley to leave Audi effective ASAP. So
What do you mean, Lawrence Stroll?
definitely think there's some I mean, sorry, yes. I'm sure there's a bunch of zeros involved there. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, Lance Stroll ain't opening any checkbook up for anyone, let me tell you
no,
that.
he's not.
But yeah, Lawrence Stroll definitely is. Keep spending money because they are. They're worse
Shit
than
show in a
they're worse
dumpster
than
fire?
Williams. They're worse than they're a complete disaster. They're worse than Cadillac right now. As far as everything where they should be, they are the worst team on the grid. 11th out of 11th, maybe 12th out of 11th, depending on how you look at it. Especially with Aston Martin having the more experience than any of these back teams. Outside of I guess Williams is with Carlos Sainz's decent finish. I guess they maybe picked up the pace a little bit, but what a disaster. And we'll see how everything shakes out. Obviously, if you're going to make a move, you're going to make it early. Obviously, it wasn't working right from the beginning. There had to be tension going into the season to make all these moves between Aston Martin and Audi so quickly, even though Nico already scored some points there for Audi already as well. So really, really interesting. Obviously, the Adrian Newey news is super interesting, but not totally unexpected at all. As we had mentioned earlier in the season, that the team principal job, especially at his age, never having a team principal job before, seemed
In over his head.
interesting.
He was in over his head.
He's going to go back.
In over his head.
He's going to go back to, and I was wrong, as I said, that, you work in F1 and you work as long as he has in one area that he could move over into team principal. Obviously, it didn't work, and we're moving on in many, many different ways. Now, you got to give it up for Lawrence Stroll and Aston Martin a little bit for making the move early, to recognizing that this was not going to work out, and you don't want to go and wait into June to have these moves make out. So once again, after 2 races like we had last year with Liam Lawson and the Yuki Tsunoda, flip, we're seeing like the same kind of thing here after China, going into Japan, just all kinds of changes, and it may not be the only change. April might be a lot of news coming out in April. Even though we have no races now in April, we might have a lot of news coming out. That's for sure. Whether it be personnel changes on the back end side or personnel changes on the driver's side as well. There's a lot of rumors talking there. So I think the Aston Martin thing has to do with Fernando Alonso being extremely unhappy this moment. And this could be his swan song, his last season. And to barely get the car over the finish line all season is probably not the way Fernando Alonso is going to want to end his career. I still believe that there's that Alpine connection there with Fernando Alonso, and he may end up back at Alpine even this season, even before we hit Miami. I wouldn't be shocked. if there's a trade-off there, especially with everything going on, and now with Wheatley being part of the situation. Should be very, very interesting. I don't know if this has to do with Fernando Alonso or not, but I really truly believe in my heart Fernando Alonso has something to do with these changes at the moment. I don't know. Your thoughts?
They're the laughing. They're the laughing stock of the grid right now. I mean, they can't even finish a race. Their car vibrates so damn bad. The drivers are losing feeling in their hands and feet.
No bueno.
That could be like it's it's an absolute disaster. I mean, they were out qualified by the brand new team on the grid. I mean, that just cannot happen, especially with the amount of investment that they've put into that team. Not even just, you know, team members, but the facility upgrades that they've put in. Like the hundreds of millions of pounds that they spent there. And to have this being a disaster and the whole Honda situation, that's another thing too. But they knew about this going at the end of like last year. So, I mean, it's obvious that Adrian Newey's one. He's in over his head, trying to wear the designer cap and also to wear the team principal cap at the same time. Apparently, it's obvious that he's in over his head. So something, some change had to be made to relieve him of the team principal duties, because then you have to be able to oversee everything as the team principal, not just the design department or the car design, which is his expertise. So something had to give there. So a change definitely had to be made. They got to get the engine situation under control. I mean, Honda screwed him over too here. So this is an absolute shit show. You're bringing, Jonathan, apparently Jonathan Wheatley, and it hasn't been confirmed, but that is, the rumor that is going around that through the paddock and all right now, that he will be taking over that role there, and needs somebody that has a lot of experience in that role to hopefully right the ship. But it's not going to happen over the next month either.
No,
I mean, it's going to be.
You're going to maybe
it's going to be till at least the summer break.
Maybe see something in
maybe
Miami,
after the summer break.
But you're really not going to see anything until the fall. This whatever they're going to do now, you're not going to see those results until we get through the summer break and on the other side of the summer break. So it's interesting. I guess we will update it as we go along here next week. All right. Final thoughts? Any final pieces of news that we missed before we head to Japan, sir?
That's all I really got for right now, sir.
All right. Well, we got a race coming up. We're going to have tires on track in just 5 days from now as we begin the Japanese race and then have a long 5 weeks off until we end up in Miami. So that is going to be quite the stretch there. But we'll be bringing lots of news, I think, for 4 weeks in between there. So we'll have to come up with some kind of 3 or 4 shows to fill the gap in there, but I promise we will. Say what you got to say, brother.
I will see you guys next time. Japanese Grand Prix Suzuka, one of the best tracks on the schedule, to be dead honest. So always look forward to Suzuka. Cherry blossoms will be in bloom. It's always a good time.
And as always,
stay medicated, my friends.
Peace.